Hello everybody, video here for you today. This is the retro no cap recap of The Curse of Oak Island, season 6, episode 22, season finale called Lost and Founding. Originally aired in April of 2019. If you missed my recaps of previous and future episodes, there's a link to my Oak Island playlist in the upper right. Let's get into it. Doo 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 doo. Previously on The Curse of Oak Island, people have been looking for an incredible treasure for 229 years. The rear shot of the episode is the opening shot, looking west to show that half of the island with the causeway from the mainland. Just off the causeway is a group of buildings now called the Interpretive and Evidence Centers, and further inland from there, Dan Blankenship's house. Rick, Marty, and Dave visit Dan to inform him of the dendrochronology dating of the wood from the slipway and other structures they have found in Smith's Cove. They all date approximately 25 to 30 years before the 1795 discovery of the money pit. This includes the U-shaped structure originally discovered by Dan in the early 1970s during his own excavation of Smith's Cove. Marty tells Dan that he personally had thought all of the structures were built by searchers. Later in Smith's Cove, Marty asked Billy to dig under where the U-shaped structure was to try to find the purpose of it, especially if it was related to the finger drain / flood tunnel. That structure and the slipway were both dismantled and removed after being thoroughly documented. Meanwhile, Laird is more inland, hand excavating around the most recently found structure just under where the crane pad was. He uncovers this blue clay and then finds more boards packed on both sides with very thick layers of clay. Rick asks why put the clay on the back. Laird shakes his head and shrugs to signal he has no idea. My guess would be for extra waterproofing in case the front clay failed, but that's the only thing I can think of. A few feet in front of it is this previously uncovered structure that is in no previous searcher reports. Laird next uncovers this upright timber that suggests it's a brace. And the wall keeps going to the right. That night, we see that EU Canada is putting in overtime on their seismic scanning of the swamp. Since there is more wind during the day that could affect the results, they decided to work overnight. Rick, Marty, and other members of the team are joined in the war room by treasure hunter Bruce Lindahl, researcher Justin Kennedy, and from California via video conferencing, Bruce's brother Court Lindahl, who is a historian and researcher. Court believes he has found a link between his research and that of the late Zena Halpern, who tied the Knights Templar to Oak Island, which he presented to the team 2 years prior. Court's research has led him to discover that the Duc d'Envie, whose given last name is Rochefoucauld, which is written on Zena's map, had a son named Louis Alexander Rochefoucauld, who was friends with Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Court believes there was a good chance that Louis told them about the Templar treasure on Oak Island, and that part of it was used to finance the War for Independence. Court has found many connections between the first families of Virginia and New England and the French families that assisted in the Revolutionary War. There are letters from French families that settled in Nova Scotia to George Washington, trying to convince him that Nova Scotia should be one of the colonies. When Washington became the commander of the Continental Army in 1775, he commissioned this design for a symbol of American resistance used during the Revolution. A similar carving is on a stone on the northeastern shore of Oak Island. Eagle Canada has finished the seismic survey of the swamp and informs Rick and Marty that it will have to be processed for a month And then Jeremy Church will need 2 more weeks to put together his report. In Smith's Cove, Billy uncovers a third wall, and then one opposite it. Billy and Laird assume it's a shaft, but Marty suggests that it could be a sluice box. A sluice box is used to divert water. This animation shows the water being channeled away so that it cannot enter the finger drains that feed the flood tunnel. Narrator Robert Clotworthy asks, or could it be older and be part of the flood tunnel itself? Marty remarks to Rick that the work is beautifully done. Rick says artfully done. Unfortunately, they are out of time on the permit and on the weather, so they will be unable to give Smith's Cove its due diligence. Further, unfortunately, I don't recall them following up. Without the dam in place, even though this spot appears to be inland enough to further investigate, you can see how the water collects. Also, just beyond the piled up dirt and trees is the cave-in pit. The season-ending War Room session starts. Marty recaps the finds in Smith's Cove, including the intact box drain, just as described by early searchers. He also points out the significance of the wood being dated 25 to 30 years before the discovery of the money pit, and also before the start of the Revolutionary War. Laird echoes Marty in saying that he thought all of the finds were searcher construction until they got the dendro dating. The talk goes to if the pre-war structures were depositors or recoverers, perhaps to finance the war. Dave asks, do you think if they took everything, they would have covered up everything as well as they did? Charles adds, you just recover it and go. They decide to continue. I'll be continuing retro no cap recapping of that continuance of seasons 7 and 8 during the summer and early fall of 2024. All of the other episodes that are already aired are already done and are in my Oak Island playlist. I'm also doing no cap recaps of the current season of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, which has its own playlist. I've started doing retro no cap recaps of seasons 1 through 4 of that series as well. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Siempre avanti.